media laws and procedures in Afghanistan, a comprehensive analysis from 2001 to Taliban takeover. Today, we delve into the development of media laws and procedures in Afghanistan from 2001 to 2021, examining the change following the fall of the Taliban regime and their impact on the media landscape. We aim to explore the key landmarks and challenges and their influence on the shaping the media environment in Afghanistan. Furthermore, given the recent Taliban takeover, we will discuss the immediate and long-term implication for media and media laws and procedures and challenge faced by journalists and media organizations under the Taliban regime. And lastly, we will examine the role of international partners and organizations in developing media laws in Afghanistan. We are honored to have respected panelists today. Each brings their expertise and unique perspective. Welcome Said Jafar Rastin, former Director of Publication for the Ministry of Information and Culture. Abdul Mujib Khalwadgar, former Director of NAI, supporting open media in Afghanistan. And Farida Nekzat, founder of the Center for Protection of Afghan Women Journalists in Afghanistan. Actually, I received a message from Nekzat Saib. She is not good. I don't know if she can join us today or not. Anyway, we will continue with our two panelists. And today panel, we have divided panel in two parts. In the first part, each panelist will, we have allocated, dedicated 20 minutes for each panelist, and they will present their presentation. And then we will, following the presentation, we will move to the question and answer parts, and I will pose two questions to the panelists. And besides, we are allocated times to question for the audience. Let's start with the first presentation. First presentation is Said Jafar Rastin will address the Afghanistan media laws and regulations, highlighting their strengths and challenges. Rastin studied journalism and communication at Kabul University. He worked as a journalist for Jampur News Agency in Kabul, and also he worked as a civil society regional specialist for the UNDP local governance project, and also he worked as a media advisor for the Ministry of Information and Culture. And besides, he worked as a director of publication for the Ministry of Information and Culture of Afghanistan. And currently, Rastin working as a admin for the viral multicultural organization based in Liverpool, UK. And besides, he is the directing board member of Heart for Refugee charity organization in UK, and he is a volunteer in this organization. Most welcome, Rastin Saib, and floor is yours. Please begin with your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your generous introduction. Now everybody can see the slides here.
Yeah, it's shown. Yeah, we can see it.
That's good. Thank you very much again. I will go through my presentation very brief. So first of all, I think it is not that much irrelevant that I will focus about some very latest statistics and facts based on our database that we had. I used to work with MOIC, Minister of Information and Culture, to October of 2020. So the very latest data that I had with myself, I wanted to share And there are some statistics numbers that totally we had 3,578 media outlets registered with the database of Ministry of Information and Culture, 972 electronic media, including TVs and radios and cable networks and websites, 1,669 printing media, and 937 registered as institutions or training or research centers. But I wanted to focus about the very last 2 points that there were our records were showing in that time that all these 3,578 media outlets, which was registered with Minister of Information and Culture, was not operating at all at the same time. It means that they have been registered with us, but it doesn't mean that they necessarily were operating at the same time in that period of time that I was working and before that as well. And also another fact that I wanted to share with our guests today, that there were also further than the number that I've already provided. There were also some media outlets that they have been registered and they have been closed without informing us officially. So it means that the number are not 100% accurate. So there will be ups and downs in this case. And the very last point I wanted to point, and then I go through the laws and regulation. MIC findings also in that time showing that meanwhile there were plenty of other media unregistered with us. Our assessment was showing that many of other, despite, alongside this number that I have already provided, there were more than this number. I mean, media outlets that they haven't been registered, they were not reported, we didn't have any information and details about them. But they were at the same time they were operating. So these are some facts that I wanted to share for just to go to our discussion. Now I want to go through the Afghanistan media laws and regulation. In Afghanistan, we had some main and core laws and regulation that we were working based on that in the country. Afghanistan mass media law was the very main law legitimate source which we were going to implement, and all the activities and the media functioning and operation was based on the Afghanistan media law. And Afghanistan access to information law, another one. Copyright law in Afghanistan, which was implementing, and we were part of the copyright, and regulation on establishment and activity of private mass media was crucially important because it was just providing all the detailed guidance and criteria for establishing and how the media will function or operate inside the country. And we had inside MYC, there were some attempts from our side that we wanted to have a publication policy that based on that more clarification about how should the media operate inside the country, and how we are expecting that our expectation was based on that the media should do their activities based on the publication policy, which was drafted, but it never had been approved. To that time that I left the ministry, I don't know what happened to that. Regulation on joint committee, which was an initiative, the joint committee, many of you that you were involved with the media in Afghanistan, media activity in Afghanistan, you know that joint committee was a very good initiative toward cooperation sorting out the difficulties and challenges against journalists and media activity in Afghanistan. And regulation on digital publication, which was the very latest attempts of the MYC, and also it was drafted only, and the very final draft has been discussed through the channels, but it never had been proved and signed. I don't know what happened to that now that Taliban are there. And also alongside these laws and regulation, we have some criteria based on the commissions, that 8 main commissions plus the Media High Council was working in the media field in Afghanistan. I have just brought it in the presentation. So I want to go through the media law making process. The law making process in media field was quite inclusive, that I will explain how. And this is one of the strength point of the media law in Afghanistan, because the whole process was very inclusive, as I believe, and I will explain, maybe you will agree with me. And the basic draft was prepared from the sectorial department, which was MYC. And then there was an inclusive discussion. We were supposed to share it with many different other addresses like media institutions, media managers, and the journalists certainly. And we always, we were welcoming their outputs and their opinions to include and to enrich the draft. After that, the final draft has been provided to the Minister of Justice to do some structure-based edition. And after that, it has been provided for a discussion to the ministerial or cabinet session. And after that, either it was passed or need to be revised. If there was some feedbacks or comments that required a revision on the final draft in this stage, again, Minister of Information Culture and Minister of Justice was responsible to do some efforts to develop the very last opinions and ideas and comments on that. And then after that, it was being referred to the Parliament, to the relevant commission, and they had also discussions. Usually it was not very easy in this stage, because there were a lot of other political things they were going to include, and there were discussions, arguments, and you all know that in the lawmaking process in Afghanistan, when it comes to the parliament, it was always challenging but critical. But we were welcoming this, because every single comments mattered to us in that time, because we were assuming that all these struggles or making very inclusive the process. So we were welcoming that. And after the relevant commission, which was usually the cultural and religious commission in parliament, after they approved that, it was provided to the president to acknowledge or to sign. Or if it has been rejected, again, Minister of Information Culture and MOJ, which is Minister of Justice, they were supposed to do the edition. So at the very last, it has been again through the channel that in a cabinet session, it has been being discussed and then provided to, again, the process with the parliament. And again, if they have been approved that, for the acknowledgement, it has been provided to the minister, to the president. So this is the whole steps that I briefly brought here to show that the lawmaking process was quite inclusive, and it was a very positive and a strength point when it comes to media law and regulation in Afghanistan. And I want to point out some like in a bullet point, some stern points of the law and media law and regulation, which was operating, that we were working based on that in Afghanistan. The law and regulation in Afghanistan mostly had a democratic approach. I personally believe that because it was inclusive, because it was supporting the freedom of speech and freedom of expression in Afghanistan, and because it was acknowledging the rights of journalists and the media activity in Afghanistan, so it was democratic. But in certain cases that I personally believe that it was still a little bit ideologically, because it has been mentioned in a very top and the very first article of mass media law, for instance, in Afghanistan, that it was promoting a certain religion, while we needed a diverse Afghanistan in terms of religion as well, not in terms of ethnicity and other things, language, but in terms of religion. It was still, I personally assume that it was not, it was democratic, but there was some points to be raised. And it was inclusive, as I said. The procedure was including many different ideas, and there was plenty of constructive discussions and arguments during the whole process of the time. And it was progressive, because the procedure was suggesting and addressing the things that if it had been continued to more time, I personally assume that it was progressive, and it was shaping the landscape, a very wider landscape for the future of media activities in Afghanistan. And the very good point that I have been noticed, and we had some struggles as well to do so, was easy process that we tried our best to do. The process was complicated. Still, there was, in bureaucracy, Afghanistan was more bureaucratic, because a lot of paperwork were needed in every process, but we at least tried that we should do the process a little bit easy. And some more points that I personally was facing, and my research or findings through the media law in Afghanistan shows that it was very open and free, because, for example, I brought in this presentation Article 10, 12, and 27, that based on these articles, the following individuals and institutions have the right to establish a media outlet in Afghanistan. That easy. Afghanistan citizens, women and men, without any discrimination. Political parties, which is very important in democracy. In democracies, if we practice a democracy, the political parties and the freedom that they should have, and social organizations, foreign refugees, which was very, very key point in my finding, that I notice now. As a refugee, I feel that many of us in different countries, we are a little bit restricted, despite that we are living in bigger and older democracies. But in Afghanistan media law, it has been designed even for the foreign refugees living in Afghanistan, in case there were not more foreign refugees, but in case that there were refugees from foreign citizens, they could have the right to establish their own media in the country. So it is a very positive point. And also I said that it was progressive. So it means that it was progressive, and it shows that it was progressive, because in case in future, and if Afghanistan had a sustainable system and everything was continuing in the future, maybe there were more foreign refugees in Afghanistan. So the law already addressed this issue. and it was a progressive, a sign of a progressive point. Governmental institution, foreign public political agencies based in Afghanistan, international intergovernmental agencies, foreign, non-governmental, and private companies, they were all based on these three articles in Afghanistan mass media law. They were free to establish their own medias in Afghanistan. And if we go through the objectives and the aim or the goals of both Afghanistan mass media law and Afghanistan access to information law, it shows that you can easily find out that it was more supportive and it was safeguarding and protecting the rights of journalists and access to information in Afghanistan. To promote and guarantee the right of freedom and thought and speech in Afghanistan, to protect the right of journalists, to promote and develop the free, independent, and pluralistic mass media in Afghanistan, support and the develop of the mass media in Afghanistan to ensure that the right to access to information in Afghanistan. For example, I want to mention some articles that, for example, seeking information or access to information in access to information law, Article 5 is discussing about that how it could be and how easy it could be, what was the responsibility of the governmental institution. For example, about the time framing, all the governmental institutions were obligated based on this article number 5 that they should provide the required information in 1 working day. While for any other citizens without any delay for 10 working days, it has been declared there. So it means that there were some attempts, and also based on this, based on the Afghanistan access to information law, all the governmental institutions were supposed to create their information offices to provide accurate information. We had an attempt, we had an assessment, but there was a project in the presidential, they were working close with the presidential office. I'm trying to find the exact name, but it was like Open Society or this. We had launched a share assessment that in that time our finding shows that 18 administration offices, governmental institution offices, they had already created the very basic foundation of the officer or the office to provide information, but still there were some problems, lack of, for example, capacity, lack of equipments or things that, I mean, the attempts were ongoing in that time, but it was still a good point. We had a lot of weaknesses in that time as well, that I will come to that, but I mean, these struggles and attempts were all to ensure that the right of access to information in Afghanistan should be guaranteed based on law and in practice. To ensure the transparency and accountability, observe the Article 19 of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is very important, and also to combat and fight about against the corruption, ongoing corruption, which was impossible, to be honest, but still it has been declared in the law, which is a strength point. Some weaknesses as well, as I say, that the very first article of the Afghanistan media law is indicating that the law has been enacted taking into account the principles of holy religion of Islam, while we had other religion in Afghanistan as well. Even the number of the people that they were following that religion was not that much as the one certain religion. But still, I mean, these things, when we bring these things in law, it damages the face of the democratical approach that I have already mentioned. Is my personal input. And And also one thing that the freedom of thought is a little bit different with the freedom of media or expression, because I personally believe that the law with this shape was not supposed to protect the freedom of thought, because when you're promoting one ideology, it will never happen on the ground in a practice. So it is some weaknesses. And also we had felt to do something with the Afghanistan National Radio and TV station, which is for our foreigner friends and guests, maybe it is not a big issue, but for Afghan nationals, I think it's still the biggest issue that to that time and during 2 decades, there were attempts on 2006 that Afghanistan National Radio and Television should be changed to a public service administration rather than a governmental radio and TV, but it never happened. While in Article 13 of Afghanistan media law, it has been declared that the general director of the TV, the National Radio TV, will be appointed after the confirmation of the Ulusi Jirga, which is the parliament. But it never happened because the president wanted to have this station to his hand. So it was damaging the democratical approaches that I have already mentioned. So these were the weaknesses of weaknesses of us as a government or as an institution, that in practice there were some nice things in the paper, but we couldn't. And it was for the goodness of the nation as well, because we needed to change the national radio TV to the public service administration, like this station, rather than as a governmental station. And there was some failure in we were witnessing during the time by the media side as well. For example, mass media are obligated to submit their annual financial report to the Media High Council and Ministry of Finance. It has been mentioned in Article 26, which never happened, never happened. We had a lot of, maybe there are some of our audiences that they will not agree with me, but as far as I was working with the Civil Service Department in Afghanistan for the last years, I know that there was a lot of, there was a failure of implementing these parts of law when it comes to the financial and the accountability and the transparency, even with the media sector. It doesn't matter that when you are insisting in accountability and transparency, it should include the media system as well. They should be transparent, and they should be clear with their budget and the source of their financial sources. And another shocking number, which is very disappointing, amongst 3,578 media outlets that I've already mentioned at the very beginning of this presentation, less than 5 of them succeeded to provide a standard contract based on the Afghanistan labor law, which when we are talking about the standard contract, that every single rights and privileges should be entitled and should be brought in the contract. But the contract was, many of these contracts were not standards, our finding shows. And also, Khilwatgar Sahib also, I was in a panel. I remember that they launched research about that almost all of the media, they didn't provide it contract based on the Afghanistan labor law that was guaranteeing the rights of the employees in media sector, which was a failure as well, while it has been mentioned in the law. There were some challenges also. that we couldn't implement. These were the weaknesses, but now I wanted to point out briefly, sorry if it takes more minutes, I will finish it soon. Parallel media institutions and addresses, that it was causing working interference in Afghanistan was one of the biggest challenges. I will bring some examples. For example, we had Deputy Minister Office for Publication at the Minister of Information and Culture, which was based on the both law, Afghanistan Access to Information Law and Afghanistan Mass Media Law. This organization was the relevant and the core relevant department which was responsible in implementation of the law and regulation in Afghanistan and observing what's going on the ground. So, but at the same time, we had the Government Information Media Center, GIMIC, that they were powerful, they had more budget, they have their networks, they had the support, the significant support of the government, not the department that they should be like that. And also Directorate of Press in President Office, they had 2-3 of them. Everyone had their own team and everyone were following their own agendas, and there was a lack of professional, effective communication in media from our side, from the government in that time. For example, advisor office to the president, they were someone for themselves as well, and also a spokesperson they had. So a very long list of all these parallel institutions caused and working interfere, but it was creating confusion with the media management, media managers and journalists, that who are who actually. And another challenge that the media were facing and had in Afghanistan was media in Afghanistan was fully fund-based. They were operating based on the fund. They received the fund they were handling, but when the fund was stopped, most of them were collapsed very soon. So a fund-based media could be started and ended in a very short time, what I brought in the presentation. And dependency, this dependency has impacted in the quality of the product, the media product that we were witnessing. Of course, it impacts, or the quality has been affected by this, because we have an expression in Farsi, "Har ki non dehat, farman dehat," and it was not planned and very manifested base, because it was just there was some money to be spent and they need a report, nothing more. So to that time they were operating, and after the fund was finishing, so it was finishing. And lack of accountability, there was a problem that the database of the central database of NYC, which I was responsible in that department in that time, was showing that almost all of the TV channels in Afghanistan belonged to jihadi leaders and the people or individuals who were in power, and they were very powerful. No one could make them accountable in that time. So they wanted to do whatever they want. So in terms of applying the articles of the law, no one could accountable them. And in terms of when it comes to the rights and privileges that all the journalists and employees were entitled based on law, no one could make them accountable. So it was one of the biggest challenges that I was witnessing and we were witnessing. And the rule of law, of course, not only it is with the Afghanistan media law, but in the constitution and other laws and regulations in Afghanistan. Corruption was impacted, of course, very largely in very large scale. I mean, not only the governmental body, but also other parts of the society as well. It was impacted on media as well. This was a challenge. Lack of sustainable systems, that there was not a systematic communication links with the government. As I say, that the parallel
Rasin said, sorry for disturbing. Could you please conclude in 2 minutes?
I will do that. I will. I'm just finishing it at slide 13, but we will go to 15. 2 more slides.
Okay.
Sorry for the very long speech. And the lack of security, of course, you know that Afghanistan was the conflict zone during the last 2 decades, and it was definitely, it has a significant negative impact on the media. What we were expecting that the media should be like this, but because of the unsecure environment, many things didn't happen as it was supposed to. And we had a young democracy. I want to conclude my presentation with I want to quote from the Friedrich Ebert, which was the first chancellor of Germany, I think, and also the first elected president of Germany, if I am not correct. Someone will correct me. But the very impressive quote from him, that democracy needs Democrats. So when we are talking about the collapse of media system in Afghanistan or any other thing that happened in Afghanistan since from August 15, 2021, I personally believe that it was the failure of the democracy and the system in Afghanistan, not only the media, but also we had a very young democracy. And so the failure of the democracy, we should bring this discussion under the context of the failure of democracy in Afghanistan, not the failure of media, because media were operating in a good way because there were laws and regulations that they were guaranteeing that they were shaping the landscape for their future. But what happened was the young democracy failure and the failure of the democracy in Afghanistan. So that's why it is a very sad point that we are now, this current conference shows that we are living in different parts of the world, and we do not have the opportunity to practice something which was designed on the paper previously, but now we should start again. I don't know when. Thank you very much for listening. I'm sorry for the very long.
Thank you, Rasin, for insightful presentation about the Afghanistan media laws and regulations and challenge they face. Now I invite the audience to write down their questions. As I mentioned before, at the second session, we have 13 minutes for questions and answer, and you can ask your question regarding the first presentation at the end of this session. Now we are moving to the second presentation, but before that, Negzad said, most welcome. I know you're sick, and I'm happy to have you here today, and thank you for participating.
Thank you,
our
Mr.
second.
Thank you, Mr. Ubaidi.
Yeah, welcome. We are moving to the second presentation. Khalwat Garseb will discuss the civil society engagement through the legal process of the laws, challenges, and issues. Khalwat Garseb is a well-known person in Afghanistan media. Khalwat Garseb is a former director of NAI, supporting open media in Afghanistan. He received his MA in international relations. He started working with media in early 2000, and after that he worked with different media organizations. He worked as a journalist, news manager, and channel manager. He worked with Internews managed radio and channel Salam Watandar, and in May 2005, he and other media fellows established the Internews funded Afghan media advocacy and training organization NAI supporting open media in Afghanistan. In September 2008, he joined the Soros Foundation's Open Society Institute in Afghanistan as a media coordinator and the acting country director. He joined the NAI in September 2010 and establishing NAI Higher Education Wing, NAI Media Institute, a 2 years diploma in media. Abdul Mujib Khalwatgar is the author of 6 books, including the 2 research, Ethics in Social Media and Islam in Era of Globalization. He wrote several articles and shared research with international journals. He is the author of Afghan Media Landscape, published by the European Journalism Center. Most welcome, Khalwatgar Sahib. The floor is yours. Please begin your presentation.
By the name of God, thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you for giving me the floor and the chance to talk with you regarding the engagement of civil society in the process of legislation in Afghanistan. I would like to thank you, Mr. Rothstein, for the comprehensive presentation. Very thoughtful. I am very happy to be part of this panel, and I'm honored by being in this panel. So what I would like to say here or to present here is a kind of civil society perspective to the legislation process of the media-related laws in Afghanistan. I would share my own experiences and my own witnesses that I just passed this way, starting my work in 2002 until the collapse of the government. I would say the process and I would indicate the process, but I will focus more on challenges. But let me to confess here that when I am focusing on the challenges, it doesn't mean that the way and the path was full of challenges. I will give you a kind of comprehensive, a kind of comparison example. Life for each and every human being, it is hard. When you live in this world, it is full of hardship. But if a person comes and life, it is catastrophe. What happened in Afghanistan from 2001 up to 2021, it was hard and it was full of hardship. But what happens now is the taking of life, and it is the catastrophe, what's going on now in Afghanistan. So when I'm focusing on challenges, it does not mean that I'm complaining. It does mean that the path was having challenges. I hope I can go with the, yeah. In Afghanistan legislation, although it was indicated by Mr. Rothstein, there are 6 specific steps for having a document to be a law. The first one is drafting. The second is verification. Of course, drafting and verification and all the steps, there are different stakeholders and different organizations that they are, based on this law, they are involved in. But I want to say only the steps, and then I would focus on on media organizations' engagement on. Drafting, verification, confirmation, approval, ratification, and publication in the official gazette. Each law in Afghanistan needed to pass this path, and go from all these 6 steps. Of course, before having the Parliament of Afghanistan, it was a little bit easier to have a law ratified and go to the publication, because it did not need any approval and any confirmation from the Parliament. But when we had the Parliament and after that we had the related laws, this was the path. In drafting, it was ministerial engagement. For example, for media law, we had the Ministry of Information and Culture. We have the Ministry of Justice. We have, if it goes to some part of the media, we had the Ministry of, for example, Interior. We had the other ministries, but in general, it was a focus of Ministry of Information and Culture with the drafting. Furthermore, we had the upper house and lower house of the Parliament of Afghanistan, that they have their own committee. I think it was Religious Education Cultural Committee, that they could go, a commission that they could go for law drafting. At the same time, we had the presidential office that they were involved in drafting something and some laws. Based on the Afghanistan Constitution, the president has the right to, or president had the right to establish commission to draft any legal document, including laws, regulation, policies, and so on and so forth. And also we have the civil society, the organizations that the number was indicated by Jafar Rothstein. It says that we had 22 media organizations registered with the Ministry of Information and Culture to work in the media sector. So it is not the media outlets, it is not the publications. It was mainly kind of advocacy organization. They were the civil society that were engaged in law drafting, or in drafting of laws and regulations in Afghanistan. How civil society, I mean, the process of civil society engagement in drafting a law was seen in Afghanistan. We need to compose or combine of a coalition. It was the first step. Of course, combination of a coalition was not easy. It was full of challenges. First of all, government was interfering on the process. They were trying the best to prevent any coalition combination of the civil society. Second, because of different views and interests inside the members of the coalition, it was very hard to deal with the conflict of interest inside the coalition members. The other thing was the lack of knowledge among the members. It is not something to, very honestly, to insult, but it was a reality that among people who were working to advocacy for a law, to lobby for a law, we had lack of knowledge, relevant knowledge. So the other reality was the ethnicity issues and identity issues. Of course, the provision of each and every item of law was read differently by any person. For example, a man was reading it differently, while my coworker, a woman, was reading it differently. A person who was on his 40s was reading it differently, while a young member of the coalition was reading it differently. So kind of different reading of that law based on identity, based on ethnicity, based on gender, it was another challenge that we were facing with. On the other hand, or furthermore, we, in our legal documents, we did not have a specific, clear definition of national interest in Afghanistan. So it was another issue and challenge for us to draft a law, because I was reading the national interest in my assumption from national interest was different from the others. This was the point of conflict among our coalition. Then after drafting the law, we need to debate on each and every item of the law, and it was also full of challenges. We had inside our coalition kind of composition of different groups. People were combining with each other. Some member of the coalition, they were saying that this chapter of law should be like this, while we had another group inside the coalition that they were debating differently. Again, in the debating process, we had the government interference. I myself, who was a part of different laws drafting, debating, and lobbying process, when it was the peak time of a law debating, I was receiving different calls from security organization, from Ministry of Information and Culture, from the people inside and outside of the government, but they were supporting the values of the government, the values, individual values of the governmental people. They were saying, stop this, do not make this decision, do not make this, or do not conduct this session. And they were interfering, do this part, this item, this chapter, that way. So we had lots of interferences from the government. It was very hard to get to reach to a point that could result in a kind of fruitful end of the process. There was lots of disruptions in our work, and the other issue was that from the coalition, the information was leaked through the government, through the even I will say this in my presentation, even to Taliban, the information was leaked to outside of that coalition. It was another challenge. The other part of our engagement was lobbying. Of course, in lobbying process, it is not something that you can do it among yourself. You need the governmental body or the other parties to be present. The government was not present. Whenever we wanted to ask them to come and listen to us, they were not present. Of course, we had some people that they were supporter. Of course, we had some people that they were sharing the same values inside the government, but it was not all the cases. One of the challenge was absence of the government executive body in the process. The enticement of the coalition, some member, was another challenge. NAI, the organization I was working with, did a survey. Based on the survey, 52 top information people inside the government were the people that they were hired from media sector. This was a kind of bribery, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong, but it was my assumption that it was a kind of bribery. The government wanted to make silence the people who were criticizing. That's why they were, the government hired them. And the other challenge was that each and every member of the coalition was accused of different unreal kind of actions. For example, the members were accused that they were receiving money from the from foreign countries, and especially they were saying from foreign intelligence to do this lobby, which was, I believe, completely wrong, because I led some of the coalition and I have never ever witnessing a penny or a cent of dollar to come for us to do the lobby. It was not something like this. So accusation was another thing, and threats and violence. I said that the information was leaked not only among the government organization, but even it was going to Taliban. And then whenever there was the peak time for lobbying a law and for a law or for a draft, then the violence against certain people were raising. Calls, emails, threats by the Taliban was one of the important and one of the top challenges that we were facing with. Yeah, I received several calls by the people who were saying that they were from the Taliban, saying me that stop such infidel steps. They were calling them un-Islamic steps, the drafting of law. I don't know how they perceived it this way, and of course how they received this information, but it was the reality that we were facing with as a challenge during lobbying, and advocating for a law and for a bill. I said still I don't know. It is a decade, more than a decade. Still, I don't know how Taliban received that information. Very hard to know. And it is one of the points that I wanted to know how they received. These were the challenges that we were facing during lobbying, during drafting, during advocating for ratification of a law. I said just examples to say 15 years of your challenges in few sentences or in few paragraphs. It is very hard, but I tried my best to do it this way. Despite of the said challenges and problems, civil society and media organizations were engaged and put pressure to the government to have the following successful kind of examples. We had laws. So media law, it was amended for 5 times from the time it was ratified by Karzai, by the president, ex-president. We had the access information law with 1 amendment. We have the NGOs law on the part of media organizations on it. We have the trademark registration law. We have the labor law that related to media, especially private media, and other laws. Rastin Saib said about the others. For example, the copyrights and other related laws in media sector. We have also regulations, establishment and performance of private media, employment processes, compensations, insurance, retirement, employer and employee dispute, salary, wages for employees, travels and expenses, all regulations related to media either with the government, with the Ministry of Information and Culture, or with the Ministry of Labor. We had such regulations. And of course, we had the policies, mass media, national policy, media safety and security, and tens of others policies that were enforced before the collapse of the government. And of course, it was showing how we had the civil society, the media had the chance to be involved on the laws, regulations, and legal documents that related to us. Of course, Afghanistan did not have a good democracy, but we were experiencing to have good democracy. Thank you very much for your time. And I would like to use this space and this stage to thank all those who helped us in almost 20 years inside and outside the government of Afghanistan to have the best legal documents.
Khalwat Garsab, thank you very much for in-depth explanation regarding the civil society role and developing of media laws in Afghanistan. Before moving to the final presentation, again, I want to invite the audience, if you have any questions regarding the second presentation, just write down your question. We have time to for your question at the end of the panel. Now we are moving to the final presentation, and Nick will discuss the state of media laws and procedures in Afghanistan after August 2021. Farida Nighzad is the senior journalist, media trainer, and director of the Center for the Protection of Afghan women journalists, CPAWG, from 2017 to August 2021. Now she is studying master as a in journalism and communication at the Carleton University of Canada. Besides, she contributes as a teaching assistant with the instructors. Nighzad, with more than 20 years experience in journalism and management, as a civil activist who has always worked for freedom of the press and women's rights. She began her journalism careers as a freelance journalist or reporter with the local and international media such as BBC Radio and Institute for War and Peace Reporting, IWPR, and an Institute for the Media Policy and Civil Society, IMPACS, very long name. She mostly covers women's rights and human rights issue with exclusive interview and analysis. Nighzad was selected as a president of the South Asia Women in Media Afghanistan chapter 2010, and had a lot of achievements in terms of the capacity building and empowerment of women journalists and press freedom and their legal support and protection. She led the Media Commission for the Independent Election Commission of Afghanistan in 2014, where she expanded her communication skills with national and international organizations. Most welcome, Nighzad Sahib. Mic is yours. Please begin your presentation.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your very great introduction. And first of all, I want to just say hi and hello to everyone, anywhere your guests, panelists, participants, inside, outside, and outside, anywhere you are in the diaspora. I should share my screen, yeah? Because I have to, yes. I'm sorry if I make it very slow, but I will try my best. Anyway, let's actually, I'm talking about Afghanistan media law after 2021, August 2021. It was very informative and very productive presentation from Mr. Rossin and Khalwa Garsib. I don't want to touch to the issues and already explained, but shortly I was just thinking that if I talk about Taliban in 1996, because we experienced once before the dark period of Taliban. That's why it's related to each I just come. Actually, everyone was aware that Taliban first time in 1996 when they came, like every media activity for all journalists and activists, for all, not only for journalists, for everyone was banned, but only they have their radio and television as a propaganda tribune for for about 5 years. That's why I just because everyone knows that after Taliban, and the difference is that because on that time it was led by Mullah Omar, and now it is led by Hibatullah. The difference.
Joseph, could you please use full screen option, because it's
Yeah,
not
sure.
full screen.
Okay, I will go through the options. Just a minute. Okay, right. Actually,
Joseph, it's also okay, just continue.
oh, sorry. Okay. Because yeah, I don't know, today I'm not good, and I'm just
okay.
trying.
Just
yeah.
go ahead.
So this was what the media after fall of Taliban, what was happened already Rasim said talk about, and the biggest and part of media development and independent media progress there was like the participants and presence of women. So I think this was one of the important thing that I just would you please off my my video is if I request you, because it's effect on my eyes. Yeah. Can you see me?
Yeah, we can see
the screen. Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, we can see the screen.
I mean the presentation. So this was the big difference that we had women participants, and it was a golden page for women that during that time. But despite of these all achievements, which was we talk about the media law and everything, unfortunately, we lost more than 100 journalists that we achieved these achievements. This was a struggle for everyone, but unfortunately, despite of these fights and struggle for the media development, for the media democracy, for the freedom of press, for the freedom of speech, unfortunately, the page suddenly changed for everyone, because women participation, as I told you, the number of women organization function, and they started to work with different activity as a presenter, as a talk show presenter, as a producer, as a woman in camera, as a journalist, and as a survey that we just 3 months before of Taliban took over the control of Afghanistan, our organization, we did a survey and we launched the survey result, the finding, the investigation. Even it was, of course, the situation was worse for journalists, but despite of that, we find out that in only 6 provinces, there was no woman journalist. And we had in general about 1,800 journalists, while from the 18 of the only 749 was professional journalists. And this was our finding. And then, unfortunately, the situation got worse, and the dark period once again started, and just everyone become, unfortunately, forced. Most of the civil society activists, the journalists, and senior professionals, they left Afghanistan. That is why we had like media law, and I put my topic that after 15th of August, Afghanistan, a country without media law. It means media, not only media law, it means media laws, because we don't have any implementation of laws, regulations, procedures, mechanism, like regulations, everything. So that is why, since we got we more than 200, since I noted, it is about 2 to 3 months before, that 200 incidents against journalists we had like recorded. These all violations, beating, torturing, humiliations, breaking their equipments, wounding, and even we had the death and killing of journalists. So unfortunately, this was the situation. So since the return of the Taliban to Afghanistan on August 15, 2021, the media and journalists have faced several violence and insecurity challenges without law, particular mass media law and access to information law, because the professional work and journalist work are based on these 2 laws. If we don't have this, how we should function as a journalist? It means we will, like as a citizen journalist, we just will function. So that is why the confusion and implementation of the law, especially the mass media law, has made the situation of journalists and media very fragile. As a result, journalists and they are living in a nightmare. The violence and anti-freedom of speech actions continue illegally daily. At the same time, the Taliban has changed the media environment in entirely negative way, thus making the ground for journalists to escape. That is why we will witness, like, you know, like here, I knew Mr. Khalwatgar for a long time. He has been in a number of countries. You by yourself, you're Rustin and other. We never wish to stay in any other country. We had law, we were happy. At least we started to experience the democracy. We had the freedom. We had something by the name of law. Of course, there was some gaps, but we had something that professionally there was. That's why. So at the same time, the Taliban has changed the media environment entirely. So that's why I say that everyone escaped. Like, I am now here, Mr. Khalwatgar is there, you're in other place. It means an impact on all of our experience, professional work, and even mental. And a number of other people are still They are in the ground, unfortunately, but they're facing a number of issues and challenges because of the lack of or having the laws. Without law, we are just functioning. So that's what I must mention, that Afghanistan is not the only country that is governed without the laws, and each Talib acts according to their test. In the media sector, the treatment of Taliban intelligence is stricter than the treatment of Ministry of Information Culture. As a commander and the Taliban cabinet are rawer and uglier. Because if you heard about, we have the Ministry of Information, we had like different commission for the violations that they should follow up the cases. But now there is nothing working, and the intelligence department directly involved, and they are interfere in every single, even they are going to the studio for the watching and observing the presenters, that how they are like asking the question from the guests or analysts. So this is a big issue. At the beginning of the Taliban emphasized that they would implement the mass media law. However, the passing of months and years, none of the laws being enforced, because just the verbally, one of them, they say, he told to the media, okay, we are just draft another media. We will committed to do all these activity, and journalists should go through that. But then other person, one of the other authorities of these Taliban groups, started refuse and reject and say, no, none of the laws are accepted. We will start according to the Sharia. This is our law. That is why they publish their own, all these orders that Mullah Hibatullah issued. So this was the big concern. I remember when I was in Kabul still, I was looking at, oh, why I should escape from Afghanistan. I was expecting, I had 3-4 countries was invited me, like me, other journalists. But I say, no, I don't want to go, because I was waiting for the official position of Taliban. When I heard their conference and Zabiullah Mujahid conference, I was really, I say, okay, this is amnesty, general amnesty. And okay, he promised and he granted that the authorities of Taliban, they are committed to just like forget everything. We will start with the peace. But after one day, I was witness what I saw on the TV. The journalist from Aryanya News was beaten very badly. First time I saw one of my Afghanistan man cried in front of the camera. I can't forget that. He cried and said, what is my crime? What is my sense? Why they are beating me like this? And both of them were like very badly. And then after that, and the follow-up from the other organization, Etlat Rus, from other organization, from the Tulu. So it means turn by turn, the situation for journalists till now. So I was like thinking, why Mujahid not go revise his press conference? Why the Taliban not revise? They were committed for the press freedom. They were committed for the presence of women. He told one of the Al Jazeera reporter asked about the participation of women. He said, yes, it is very important. Women should work in as a and the medical section and the social, the education, they have the right to work and go to education. But unfortunately, they broke and violated everything forcibly by themselves. As a very critical dictator groups, they act with everyone, with the civilian, what they say at the conference. I remember, it says, we will never say anything to the former, any military people who work with the foreign or it means Americans military, but even they didn't let the civilians. So the gaps here I'm talking, because if we don't have the law, every Taliban want to act, it means this is their only, like, you know, we call in Persian Qanun Jangal. It means the forest law. Anybody do anything, they can do, and they can. So that is why when a constitution is not enforced in a country, then other subsidiary or sectorial law should be drafted and approved based on which law. It means when the constitution is not implementing, this is their gifts to the journalists. Since they come, I just make an example, and it is very heart-touching. Some of the journalists still, they are on the ground, and they are facing a number of it means threats, abuse, only because of their professional work or professional background.
Joseph, sorry for disturbing. Could you please conclude in 2 minutes?
Yes,
we should move into the second session.
This is the thing I talk about, that there's all illegal administration because their decision or actions are all they're illegals, because currently there is only an imaginary unknown person. He named Sheikh Mullah Hibatullah. I don't know. He is angel. He is what? He's not coming to talk with the people. He's not listening to the people. He never met the people. People never met him, never see him. So this is important. Whereas nothing illegal, everything is illegal. So the situation for all citizens, for all civilian particular, will be like that. And also for those, they are working for a long time for Afghanistan, but it is not possible. Everyone should leave Afghanistan and take out the Afghanistan. So I already talked about that. This person whose name is Zabihullah, and he lied to the billion of it means for all the world. He was conducted a conference based on the global, but he lied globally. He promised, he made guarantee, but everything was. So according to Article 34 of Constitution, which was approved in 2002, as it states, freedom of expression is safe from attack. If we don't have the Constitution, because according to Article 34 of the Constitution, freedom of speech is recognized as a political and social right for citizens, which the government is obligated. See, here is very important. The government is obligated to protect, and stated the Article 5 of Constitution. But when we don't have Constitution, we don't have media, we don't have regulation, we don't have the access to information, we don't have the regulation for the work and activity of journalists, how people should work, how these journalists should function. in terms of everything, in terms of their legal right, in terms of their safety, in terms of their it means progress or like anything. Show me when you see these all violations that I show the picture, anybody followed, anybody investigate why? A number of journalists are still, they are under jail. Why nobody talk about? They are just making lies. This is the gaps of laws, because if we have, I just bring an example. I talked with one of the chief editor of very prominent media organization. While he experienced, he was on the jail. I remember how I talked with him and how he was just talking about. He was so tired, but he said it was not my fault. It was just, they just took me without any, because he was a journalist. Nothing else. Opposite of, against of media law or all other regulations. So this is abstraction to media work and restriction for the freedom expression. So he sent 2 video clips to me. It was heart-touching what was happening with him. So, and the big thing he said, I wish I was blind, or I wish deaf, because all the other voice and cry, scrambling is still in my mind and my face and like, so they are like by themselves. I don't want to go to, because I don't know how much it give me the time, but
I think the time is finished.
Okay, I just
second. Yeah, we should move
okay.
move to
so
the
this
second
is, it
session.
means they put restriction on the woman. I just shortly, when they put in restriction for the hijab, but despite of that, they remove all the women participation from the media organization. From I show before, our investigation and findings showed that there was about 18 to 2,000 journalists, but now you will not find more than 100. This is the big example. And also they banned all the international media organizations, such as broadcasting, such as Voice of America, Radio Free, Deutsche Welle, and also one other, also the BBC. So it means they stop with these restrictions. So even I remember they some of the male journalists, because of their support and showed their support to the women journalists, they just in the telenews said and say, we are supporting women. But what's happened? Nothing changed, because there was none. Because after that, the head of 5 media organization was asked, and they were with the Taliban, and just because why they like support them, and why they are like allow the people, the analysts, to talk opposite of Taliban. They don't accept to criticize. The criticize is one of the best way for the credibility, for the transparency, everything, but they are not. For the transparency, a government should be criticized. And if you don't critique, so that's why the 4 private television channel in Kabul, they were summoned with the Ministry of Information Culture, and also there was the intelligence department that they took the commitment from them. They should not publish what they want, should be only like censorship. So this is the loss that I just shortly say. You remember there was an explosion in Mazar-e-Sharif. Why not investigated? There was a number of journalists and video camera journalists. They were injured. They were wounded. one of them killed, but a number of violations we have. None of these organizations, even we have some organizations, they are still functioning, their work is, I appreciate. In such situation, I really appreciate their work. They are a very big step, but they are not in a position to talk opposite of a dictatorship country, at least rulers. That is why. So we have like these two person from the Mazar Sharif, and this lady, because of this cruel and dictatorship management and leadership and rulers, she was very experienced journalist. She just tried to save herself, but unfortunately, she, on the way of the border of Italy, she also died. She passed away because with other number of, because the boats damaged in the water. Thank you so much. If any questions, welcome. I'm sorry because of my situation and just thank you.
Thank you, Nigzat Saib, for a comprehensive presentation about the state of media laws and procedures after Taliban took over the country. Now we are moving to the second session. In the second session, we have a question and answer session, and I want to start with the Rastin Saib. Rastin Saib, as you mentioned in your presentation, there was some challenge regarding the implementing the media laws and procedures in Afghanistan. Could you please explain how these challenges have impacted the country media landscape and freedom of expression?
Thank you very much. I could say that those challenges. Do you hear me now? Thank you. I could just say that definitely all those challenges that I have brought to my presentation, but beyond that, I'm sure that there are plenty of other challenges that I didn't bring it in my presentation, but maybe we will have a very long list of challenges, despite all the opportunities and good things going on the ground that we had. So all these challenges actually challenged the processes, because the idea which was illustrated based on the media law and the constitution and all the other laws and regulations in Afghanistan for the future of media in Afghanistan, for the landscape, that we were hopeful to see a better performance, more reliable, independent, impartial, and very based on the principle media in the future of Afghanistan. These challenges and other challenges, they have been obstacled. I mean, they challenged what we were wishing for the future of media in Afghanistan. Our aim and our goal, and I mean the media family and the media industry in Afghanistan, we were going forward. We had a progressive approach, not a passive approach. We wanted to do our best. There were attempts, there were efforts toward the professional journalism. I mean, the standard and the target was the professional journalism, to have a secure, sustainable, independent media and reliable media sector. So because of all these challenges, because of the corruption, because of insecurity, because of lack of resources, because of lack of effective communication, because of the young democracy, that it was very fragile and vulnerable, because of lack of the figures, that they were not supportive enough in the government body. Just I want to mention that there were individuals, they were against the media progressive approach, maybe because of their own benefits, but luckily, none of these attempts of individual people in the government or out of the government was not supporting by law and regulation. It was against law. it was a very good point. I mean, we were witnessing, and as Khalwat Garseb said, that there were people that they didn't want free media in Afghanistan because of their own business, because of their own benefits. But these attempts, this kind of behavior was not supported by law. This is the point. I mean, the law and regulation was had a very good was drawing a very good landscape for the future of Afghanistan, but these challenges definitely affected, or all these aims and hopes have been challenged by these by this kind of by these challenges and barriers. So I can just say that yes, it had definitely it impacted, and it didn't allow us to go forward. So finally we witnessed that everything stopped, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much, Justin. So, unfortunately, just we have 10 minutes, and I have a lot of questions in my mind, and I'm sure the participants will also have questions. Anyway, my second question is addressed to Khalwat Garseb. Khalwat Garseb, as you mentioned in your presentation, the drafting process, and could you please explain what was the level of cooperation among the international organization during the drafting process?
The international allies in general, but as I said in my presentation, there were some obstacles from the government, especially accusations for the organization or on the organization who were working, lobbying and advocating for media-related laws and regulations. That accusations prevented the international allies to be more supportive. In general, they were supportive. They were giving advices. They were discussing their own experiences. They were giving us information how such steps were passed on their own countries and on their own democratization process. But at the end of the day, it was Afghans that they were making decisions. It was the Afghanistan-based and Afghan-ruled organizations that they put their steps toward advocacy and lobby. The role of international organization and allies were, of course, critical and very important, especially as we called our democracy the kind of young democracy and path to way and toward democracy. We indeed need others' experiences and others' information and advices. And the international community, they did the best to say and emphasize on the government interferences in this regard too, especially through their accusations. But on that time, I'm grateful of international allies' support and their, on that time, ongoing kind of assistance. Yeah.
Thank you, Khalwat Garseb. There is a critical point about the international organization roles, some media activists argued that international laws and standards being replaced without considering Afghanistan's unique culture and concrete situation. Do you agree with such kind of criticism?
There is a very famous kind of statement by one of our important supporters, government representative. It was saying that a person was sitting in a corner of a room and was writing something. The representative came to him and asked what you are doing, and he replied that he was drafting the constitution of Afghanistan. It was very famous kind of quoting. It was a reality at the beginning, while there was no kind of professional inside the country. When the international support started to come to Afghanistan, let's say 2001 and 2002. But of course, when we had the people that they either trained inside Afghanistan or moved from outside to Afghanistan, I mean the Afghans, then as much as we had more skills inside the country, that much we have less let's say unneeded imitations or mimics. At the beginning it was, but it was not the full picture of legislation process in Afghanistan. We had the laws that they were based on the situation and based on the requirement and needs of the country. It includes, of course, the media laws and regulations.
Thank you very much, Khalwat Garseb. Let's move to the audience. I think Umran, I should find his name. Just he raised his hand. If you have a question, just on your mic and ask your questions.
Iman Nuri. His name is Ubaidi Sahib Iman Nuri.
Iman Nuri, yeah. Nuri Sahib, are you there?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Have a good time. Hope you're fine and doing well. And also, kind regards to the speakers for Khalwat Garseb. Just I have two questions. Khalwat Garseb, I want to know your vision, your point of view, or your sightseeing about why do you think media literacy did not get such exposure as it should have? And the second question is actually, what was the most important reason for the confrontation between the government and the media during the 7 years of the national unity government? That's all. Thank you so much.
Both questions are addressed to the Khalwat Garseb?
Yes.
Okay, Khalwat Garseb.
Thank you very much, Nuri Saib, for the questions. I hope I can answer these questions, but it is, of course, my own perception. Every person here may have their own perspective in this regard and point of view about the media literacy. In a country like Afghanistan, where we had, and it was said officially by the government of Afghanistan, that the rate of literacy versus illiteracy is as 40 and 60, or in other words, we had only 40% of our population literated. Professional literacy could be a big challenge. This professional literacy, of course, goes to each and every profession, including media. That's why we had the digestive process of media outcome in my country, in Afghanistan, in our country, a little bit problematical comparing with the other countries. That's why we had the issues of media literacy, as you stated, exposure. The literacy in general, literacy rate, the general literacy rate was too low. And that's why the assumption of outcome of media was challenged. It was read differently by people comparing with the others. And regarding your, I hope it is my point of view. I hope I am able to answer. I was able to answer the first question. The second question, the confrontation of the government and media sector in second government of President Ashraf Ghani. I would say that mainly it was the conflict of interest between the individuals and the work and the process of media unveiling steps. Or when I'm saying unveiling, of course, it is the result of investigation. I think there were people that they were involved with corruption at the government, and it was media to there to investigate and to unveil and to publicly announce what is going on, and it made the confrontation between the two sides and the two parties. The corruption does not requirely mean only related to money and kind of related only to daily work of the public organization inside the government. The corruption, it was security-wise, it was intelligence-wise, it was administrative-wise, and it was in each and every sectors of the government. That, of course, we saw the result at the end of the day, which was the collapse of the government. And that was the main point of the confrontation between the government and media sector. I could say, I could go with details and examples of this, but of course, it is based on the timeline. I think we over 22 minutes now. Yeah. That's why I would say it was the main reason for the confrontation, and I will not go to the details.
Thank you very much, Khalwat Garseb. As you said, yeah, we are at the end of the panel, and we don't have time for more questions. Thank you very much. Thank you, our respected panelists, Said Jafar Rastin, Abdul Mujib Khalwatgar, and Farida Nekzad, for your valuable insights. And today we have explored the development of media laws and procedures in Afghanistan, the impact of change after the fall of the Taliban, the implication of the new regime, and the challenge journalists and media organizations face. Then the knowledge shared today will contribute to ongoing efforts to safeguard media freedom and promote Afghanistan media landscape. Thank you all for joining us today. Now, Dr. Daniel is here. He will conclude today's conference. Dr. Daniel, floor is yours.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Obaidi. Yeah, that brings us to the end of the first day of the conference, and I would like to thank to all our guests. These were very exciting keynotes and interesting, lively discussions. I very much hope that you have enjoyed it so far. So we'll say goodbye for now, but we'll see you again tomorrow at 10 a.m. We will continue with the third panel with the title, The Role of Women in Media Leadership, moderated by Ms. Laili Habib, our colleague in the research group. Don't miss out on it. Thank you again. Have a nice day and see you tomorrow.